Welcome to Home Care, Doors Open, where we discuss licensing, operations, and scaling your home care business. Whether you're just opening your doors or looking to unlock new doors to growth and success, this podcast is for you. Let's begin.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Lucas Carroll with the Business of Senior Care, and we are back with another episode, podcast episode of Home Care Doors Open, where we talk everything in the home care space, home care, home health, licensing, startup, successful businesses, working with different vendors and different people to help make home care owners successful. And today we have an awesome guest with us to talk about all kinds of experiences in the home care space. We have Sarah Van Aken, who is the Vice President of Franchise Development with BrandONE. Welcome aboard, Sarah. It's nice to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Happy to be chatting with you and all the folks that you're speaking to.
Awesome. Awesome. So a lot of topics to get to with our conversation today. But maybe we'll just, what I wanted to just start with is, could you tell us a little bit about kind of your role with BrandONE, the breadth of kind of what your role looks like, maybe how you got into it, and then we'll kind of go into this whole home care stuff.
So I'll start with BrandONE. We are a boutique franchise sales organization. And essentially what we do is we work with emerging brands who might have maybe 0 to 5 franchisees up to maybe 10 or 50 initial franchise partners. And then we help them grow sustainably to a much larger size. So sometimes that's 200, 500, 1,000. And we really specialize in working with emerging brands because they're pretty unique in that they have a proven track record, but they have a lot of space to grow, and they're in the process of kind of going to maybe an enterprise level business. And so we really come in and provide the support to help them do really incredible candidate recruitment. Because successful franchise systems, the way they're structured, it's a small corporate entity and then eventually hundreds of individual entrepreneurs. But it's those entrepreneurs that are, working under the brand name but have their own businesses that are really what create the value in a franchise system, right? They're kind of the rising tide that lifts all ships when we can go in and increase the caliber of franchise partner by bringing in folks who have a lot of great business experience, whether it's in the industry or not. A lot of times these are folks who have, in this case, never been in healthcare or in home health. And so
Absolutely.
we support the brands in doing this. We create a great educational program and information so that folks who are investigating the opportunity can do a very thoughtful due diligence. And we work with these brands to just really get incredible franchise partners into the system. So I've been doing this for, I guess, about 5 years. I sort of fell into it. I think most people fall into franchising, but I really have been an entrepreneur most of my career. So I started, grown, and exited a couple of different businesses. So a real estate brokerage, a fashion and manufacturing business, a social network. Most recently, before joining this team, I'd actually gone in-house as the president of a design firm. And I helped a founder who was really absentee at that point do a turnaround, grow the company, get it sold. And what I realized is that I not only liked helping brands grow, which I've been doing my whole career, but I liked helping people through transitions and helping someone through the big life transition of selling their business from business perspective and also personal perspective. Not all that much different than helping someone investigate and invest in a business and become an entrepreneur, often for the first time. And so that's really what I spend my time doing. We have 17 brands at BrandONE. I work on 3 of them. One of them is seniors helping seniors, which is in non-medical in-home care, and which is how we know each other, which is you're
Absolutely.
an
Yeah.
incredible support for us and our franchise partners.
Awesome. One of the things I was thinking about for your role, and maybe you could speak to like some folks that aren't in this space or maybe not as familiar with franchising altogether, is that you're a standalone firm that helps to support franchise brands where you may think like, oh, I'm just going to be talking with somebody at the corporate office for this particular franchise brand. But in this circumstance, it's you that's talking with them. Can you talk a little bit about like the strength, the what you can bring to a franchise brand to be able to represent them for franchise development?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So there are some big franchise brands like McDonald's, for instance. Everybody kind of knows that one's a food one. That might have their own in-house team. They're very, very large organizations. The organizations we work with, um, have already a proven track record, but their expertise is not in candidate recruitment, right? It's not in the building blocks of that. So we really, all the partners at BrandONE and everyone who's worked at BrandONE really have a great understanding of not just recruitment, but operations and marketing and sales, the entire scope of running organizations. And so we bring not just the ability to do recruitment, but we bring an understanding of how to successfully grow franchise systems. And one of the key parts of that, right, if you think about how franchises are structured, you get an operating model with a predictable amount of success, and the right franchisor is going to give the franchisee a lot of support to help them be successful. And what that means is, telling them not just how to operate the business, but how to market, how to do sales, how to, implement technology to streamline processes, how to hire, every aspect of the business. And that's one of the fundamental parts. So some of the brands, are kind of just in the emerging phases of doing that. Some of them are a little farther along. And so we really provide sort of board level advisory support. We create the entire system. Candidate recruitment is critical. Like franchises aren't awarded, aren't bought, they're awarded, and it's got to be a great fit for the franchisee and the franchisor. And so that's really the expertise that we bring in. There's a lot of folks that I'll meet with and I'm like, you know what, I don't think this is the right brand for you. Here's what might be a little bit better fit, whether it's personality, whether it's how much time they have, what type of work they like doing versus what they don't like doing. And then other people, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great fit for the brand. And part of that is really understanding the business model and how the brand works and the culture and being immersed in that. So while, I do work through BrandONE, the brands that we work with, we're part of their internal team just the same. And, take a lot of pride in that connection as well.
Absolutely. I'm super interested in your perspective. You have a great perspective in terms of what type of people come to the home care space, because there's a breadth in which that you represent in people that are considering getting into home care, whether it's franchise or not. Just over the years that you've been doing it, what do these folks look like? What are the people that are interested in opening home care companies? What did they do? what are their experiences like? What are there any sort of unique, not common traits, commonalities that you see for these candidates?
Yeah, I think, I talked to probably just for seniors helping seniors alone, I probably talked to something like 250 or 300 potential people every year. And I
Wow.
probably place about 30 to 40 of them into a franchise with seniors helping seniors, right? So I talk to a wide range of people. I've also now been with the brand long enough to know who is really the most successful, right, that come into the system. And some of the comments, especially for us, our whole mission is about doing well and doing good, right? And so for us, that means, the client gets help, but we also are hiring mature caregivers who want to supplement income and do all these things. And it supports families, right? So for us, it's that key factor. That is by far the common thread. And I think that does extend beyond seniors helping seniors. One of the things I see in the senior care space is that people don't get into this unless they have a desire to not just do well for themselves in business, but to do something meaningful in other people's lives. Because our country is aging at an astronomical rate. No one wants to sacrifice quality of care for any of their loved ones. It is a very delicate and difficult time in the lives of both the client in need, but their family members usually. And so it really is the common thread there, I think, is that it's someone who has this desire to do something meaningful, has a nurturing sensibility in that perspective. I mean, there are great business attributes, right? So people do get the fact that this is a recession resistant industry, right? It's need, not want. So in times of economic uncertainty, people still spend money on kids, pets, and elderly parents, right?
Absolutely.
So there is that business aspect of it, which I think provides some security for folks who are entering into business. But I have seen people be successful in a senior care business from many different backgrounds, from architects to sales executives to engineers. The other common thread is that they have to be people. I mean, you can hire for it, right? But if you're a wallflower and you don't want to be out in the community engaging with people, that it's either not the right fit for you, or you have to realize that and be willing to hire someone who, you can trust and infuse that responsibility to. Because
Yeah.
This is about creating connections in communities, with families, with clients, with your caregivers. It's by far a people business,
Yeah.
and you have to like people.
Oh, I totally agree. What some of the common questions which you just hit on, some of the common questions that we get for starting is first, I have no experience. I'm not a nurse. I don't have an experience in healthcare. I don't know if I'll be successful. And then two, I'm kind of introverted. I don't know if I'd be able to go out and talk to people. I mean, what you had just said, those aren't prerequisites for being successful in home care, but but recognizing if you are an introverted person, if you can hire your weaknesses, and if you can bring in somebody on your team that is will absolutely promote your brand well, and that's okay. I mean, there's different solutions that can bring you for success.
And to your point, one of the things I also ask people when they say, I don't want to do cold sales, I don't want to do, like that's something I don't want to do because it scares people sometimes. I will say that the one unique factor about senior care is it's not like you're going out and selling a widget, right? You're not like, here's this vacuum that I want to sell or whatever the product is. It's actually more about relationship building. So even if you're a little bit introverted, at least if you're a good relationship builder and then can get support on the marketing side, that can work because it is all about relationships. But I'll tell you, 90% of our franchise partners have had no healthcare experience before. There are all sorts of transferable business skills in managing and operating other businesses that are translatable and transferable. But that's part of the reason why I love franchising. All the businesses that I started, I were not franchises, and I made a lot of mistakes on my own time. So you like the predictable operating model, the support, the infrastructure, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's one of the reasons why I really like that a lot. But I mean, I think that's the great thing is you can really take a lot of transferable business skills, and it's really an effort driven business. It's kind of not rocket science.
This episode is powered by the Business of Senior Care. The Business of Senior Care helps home care, home health, and hospice companies obtain their state home care license and accreditation through one-on-one consulting, fully customized policies, and years of expertise. To learn more, visit thebizofseniorcare.com. And now, back to our episode.
Yeah, just hearing that, I mean, I know that will resonate with so much of our audience that the vast majority of people don't come from a pathway which is inside of healthcare. And that can be scary, like if you're a CPA or you work in IT or something like that I don't know anything about healthcare. Inside of a framework like a franchise, like Seniors Helping Seniors, can give you the tools that you need to get into the space and become knowledgeable. Um, One of the other things that I was going to ask you was well, first, you're a machine when it comes to franchise partners all over the country. And just in the time that I've been working with you, finding wonderful people to get on board with the franchise system and seeing so many different markets that you do. What do you say for questions like the demand? Is there a demand in my area? Is there a demand where I live? What's it look like for the
Yeah.
opportunity for this business in my location? What do those conversations typically look like?
Yeah, I think one of the most profound things about this industry specifically is its magnitude. So 10,000 people turn 65 every day in the United States, and that's going to continue for decades. And the thing is, they're aging out of the workforce. Like, so one, there's a demand for because 90% of people want to age at home, right? They don't want to go into a facility. There have been studies that they live longer, healthier lives if they can age in place, right? So you have this demand side, and the truth is, our country really can't keep up with the demand. They're calling it the silver tsunami. So we have franchise partners in some states that have 135 direct competitors in their immediate market have multi-million dollar businesses because we really can't keep up with our aging population. For us on the flip side of it, we're also going after a labor force the rest of the economy isn't going after, and these seniors that who we hire as caregivers really have they're aging out of the workforce earlier than 65 and need to supplement retirement. So the our country really can't keep up with the need. We, as a brand, have a very sophisticated software system. We know what makes a territory very successful. So we have benchmarks of the number of seniors, of household incomes, of home ownership, of a lot of other key factors that we're really, it's one of the benefits of a franchise system because we can kind of really identify markets that are going to be successful and make sure that that territory will be viable for our franchise partners. But across the board, people are aging in all sorts of states. I mean, for us, you'll see maybe Austin, Dallas, Houston, where there's a huge influx of young people moving, will have a younger demographic. So for us, our overall population that we would provide there would just be higher to ensure we have the benchmark of the number of seniors. But there's an aging population everywhere. And I will say the other thing about that is one of the most unique things that I see about this industry is there is competition, but because everyone who gets into this business is really kind of heart forward, for lack of a better way to explain it, is that we have franchise partners who get called from competitors saying, I don't have enough staff to help this person. This person needs help. Can you help them? Right? The industry is collaborative like that, which I've not known another industry like that.
I would agree with that part. So in your conversations and the data that you have, I mean, it works in big cities, it works in medium cities, it works in small cities. I mean, wherever there is a supportive senior population, it is an opportunity to be successful in this business.
I would say so when we look at it, it works, and I kind of approach it like densely populated areas, small geographies, or large geographies like rural areas. And the rural areas really are often really drastically underserved, right? There's not enough folks there. So you might manage a larger territory or area a little bit differently because if it's large, you might not be in all parts of it every day. You might go every week. I would say the only parts of the country that we see that may have a challenge that you'd have to kind of get creative, it just don't work for our business model, like Wyoming, Montana, there's areas of those states that are just vast open areas.
Yeah.
And those maybe might, a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, some places where there are more cows than people, it can be tough to
exactly.
it can be tough to take care of our seniors there. One of the topics that's near and dear to my heart is compliance and licensure, and I know we've collaborated a lot for the licensure component. For somebody who's looking to start, prospects that you work with, eventual franchise partners, how does that impact your conversations? How does that impact timelines when you're discussing state-specific licensure for a potential franchise?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's one of the things that can feel a little scary if you're entering into a business, right? Because it could be like licensing, because immediately when people think about in-home care, I think mentally they go to kind of skilled nursing, right? That's not really what we do. It's all non-medical, but licensing can still scare people. And when I first started working with seniors helping seniors, we tried different iterations of how we supported franchisees with getting licensing. But I think you coming on board to really help our franchise partners expedite that process has been a little bit of a game changer and really helps the conversation. So one, I generally have like a little cheat sheet for every state, right? I know there's I think about 25 states in the country or so that do require licensing for in-home care. So there are some states that don't. Now I'll say you might think that's a benefit, and maybe it is to some degree, but the flip side of that is a little bit of licensing can really help keep riffraff competition out, right? So that's kind of an important factor. But there are so licensing, as you know, ranges from kind of simple application, you pay a fee, you don't really need a nurse, an administrator, those sorts of things, to something that's very intensive where you might need nurses to go out and do home visits and or on staff and administrators. So there's a wide range in those 25 or so states that do require in-home care licensing. There are actually a couple of states that we just won't award licenses in because they are really too challenging it would take too long for our business model. We don't want people to have to spend a year and a half doing it. So I have that conversation very early on, like, they don't kind of get to me if we're not going to award in that state. So they're there. I'm like, okay, this is the licensing. This is the overview for your state. This is how long it's going to take. Generally speaking, it takes kind of 2 to 4 months on average. There's a couple states, as you know, that are longer, but that really tracks along with our training and onboarding program. So that works very nicely with that. And there's also a huge benefit to going into a state that has more licensing if you're willing, if it's like a 6 month lead time and taking the extra time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things that you do really well is like a in eyes wide open approach. Where in terms of there are some states, as you know, that require a registered nurse. There's some states where the licensing process is much longer than others. There are some states that require financial information, and to get through the whole process and making a significant investment, and then find out there are these additional hurdles can be troublesome, but it's always an eyes wide open in terms of informing the potential person, like, hey, this is kind of what it looks like. Just full disclosure, there are some milestones that need to be achieved in order to get through that, and I think that can help mentally, that a new person is not encountering these roadblocks one after the other as they get into starting this business.
I'd also say, to folks who are looking at this, don't be scared if it's a state that does require you to have a nurse like on staff. Because one of the things I see people be successful at is, this is a business that there are some moving parts, right? And there's things that we do that are proprietary to us, like technology and support and things like that do make it easier. But people, hiring people, like thinking about the mindset of creating an agency, not just you as one business owner hiring, but think about growing into an agency. Having someone who's a nurse or an administrator on staff is really going to be a benefit. Yes, you have to include that consideration in your startup costs, but it's a benefit to you as a key support in your business model from someone who knows the industry.
I agree, and what used to be, I've been in home care for longer than I want to admit, a couple of decades, and back in the day, you would never put a registered nurse and non-medical home care really in the same category, because it initially started with things like companionship and meal preparation and some laundry and some transportation and stuff like that. But the continuum of care, and starting with non-medical going to into medical care, the gap has really closed, where you're getting some of these, especially for licensure, there's these tasks that you can perform under the license that could be considered medical care in some shape or form, and especially like hands-on personal care and transfers with seniors, and just performing the things like personal care. Having a registered nurse can really be an asset to your company to make sure that you are performing things appropriately, that that the caregivers know what tasks they can do and that they can't do, and you're just setting yourself up for success. Um, Moving forward, that's kind of the last question I was thinking is as we close out 2024 into 25, what does it look like? What's the industry look like from your perspective in terms of opportunities for more growth, different areas for growth in this sector, different franchisees, and just kind of the industry?
I think it's, they've been talking about recessions and things like that for, a couple of years now, that has, threatening to come. I think it's an industry that has incredible longevity, not just because it does well even in times of economic uncertainty, but just because we really are an aging society, and we don't really necessarily. I think one of the challenges might be labor force for most people. I think seniors helping seniors has really figured that out. That in maybe some ways that other businesses haven't, but um, from an industry perspective, it really is nothing but growth. When I take a look at territory demographics, which I look at every day across the country, in the senior care space, you have no
Yeah.
idea how many numbers I know about the country. Um, I see nothing but growth. I mean, year over year, 5 year growth in most territories that I look at is something between 20 to 25%. So that means the number of people that are today 75 and 85 potential customers is growing astronomically in just 5 years. And so it is almost a crisis need. We need more people to be doing this to keep people aging at home. I think one of the things that I've been reading is that even some of the facility, options are saying this model doesn't really work for how many people, and financially, that really we need to try to get people in home. And so, I think it's an incredible business that is very purposeful for people, which, I work with people every day that really are desperate to get out of corporate America, and they want, control over their own destiny, time freedom. They want to build wealth that they can't build, but they also want to do something purposeful. And I think this is a very unique industry that offers people that.
I wholeheartedly agree. I was thinking while you're talking about facilities that, from my perspective, like as we move forward in the next 5 to 10 years, and these baby boomers continue to age, it's that it's not an either or. It's not, are we going to have all of our seniors go to nursing homes and assisted livings, or are they going to do home care? It's going to take everything. There's so much demand now and in the future that all of them, or all of the choices, are going to be overwhelmed with demand, including the overwhelming choice for seniors, which is to age at home if they can to do that. And so I think that's just a unique perspective. There's not many industries and business models out there that I know of that the competition in which that you have is going to be overwhelmed with customers, as will you be overwhelmed with customers. And really a lot of it is more finding, great caregivers to be able to provide support to the demand that you have. That's I mean, that's, if there is a problem, that's the problem, is finding wonderful caregivers for your agency to be able to support the demand for seniors, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah,
If there is one.
for sure.
Cool. Well, awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really wonderful to get your thoughts and perspective on franchising, on BrandONE, on what you do so well, and bringing wonderful franchise partners to start businesses all across the country, and your unique perspective. So thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all the incredible support that you provide our franchise partners. I know it's been really incredible for them.
If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Business of Senior Care. We'll see you next time on Home Care. Doors open.